So now the only two bones that remain are the two drumettes. So I'm going to go underneath. I'm going to grasp the bone, and on the inside I'm just going to trim very safely with my hand away from the knife. I'm just going to trim around the top there, and I'm just going to feel around with my fingers to see if the ligaments are detached. If there are a few that are still connected, I'll just go back and use the tip of my knife to detach it. And then I'm going to pull that bone inward, okay? And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So I'm grasping the wingette, the drumette here, underneath here, and I'm going to cut around, making sure that my hand is very safely away from my knife. Okay. If I need to detach any of the ligaments, I can go back with my knife. And then I'm going to take my wing bone and pull it inward to release it. Okay? At this point, my bird is completely boneless. When we finish today, I want to make sure that we do a very thorough sani of all surfaces. So all doors, all handles, all sinks, okay? Just because we've got a lot of poultry in the area. All right, so at this point, you want to have a little feel around your bird to make sure that there aren't any pieces of cartilage or bone that remain behind, okay? And if the entrance to the cavity of your bird happens to have a little nastiness on the end of it, we can just get rid of that, okay? But we want to try to keep as much skin as possible because we need the skin in order to wrap the bird. So I'm just feeling around. I don't feel any shards of bone. So you want to have the bird, I'm going to trim this nastiness here. So you want to have the bird with the dark meat facing towards you, okay? And what you're trying to do at this point is shape it into as much of a nice little square as you possibly can, okay? So shaping it at this point is going to help you later on. So we've got the two parts here. We can take these little oysters out and we can put them in the space that was left behind by the knee, by the knuckle, okay? And then we could take these two little fillets and put them in between the space between the breast meat and the dark meat. Okay, so far so good?
Yes, chef.
Awesome. Then we're gonna take a piece of plastic and we're gonna lay it over top of the bird. We're going to use the mallet. We're going to use the flat side of the mallet, and we're going to very gently but firmly pound our bird. So the purpose of the pounding is twofold. The first thing we're trying to do is make the thickness of the bird even, so that when we roll it, it's going to be nice and even and it's going to cook evenly. The other thing that we're doing is we're actually kind of gluing the meat together a little bit so that it makes it roll nicer. So up top here, I'm going to go a little harder because the breast is a little thicker up top. And again, I'm using the flat side of the mallet, not the tenderizing side. So I'm not using the textured side. So far, so good?
Yes, chef.
Then, if you're buying your bird, you can go ahead and season the inside. If you're not buying your bird, then I'm going to ask you not to do this part. So don't season the inside, okay? But if you were cooking it right away, you would go ahead and salt and pepper it. And I think we're still using iodized salt, so just be cautious that it's stronger than the kosher salt you guys are used to. Okay, so be sparing with it. So there we go. Then we're going to grab our filling, which will be cold by now because we've laid it out flat, because we've put it into the fridge. And we're going to take our filling and we want to aim for the space right above the dark meat. Okay, so we're going on to the white meat here. So we're going to take our filling and we're very carefully going to place it onto the white meat just above the dark meat. And we do not want to overstuff our bird because that's a certain recipe for blowouts and disaster. All right. Then, and you guys are going to be using paper towel, not J-cloth for this. All right, then you're going to take, so this is the tricky part. This part here in the middle is not connected. So I call that the danger zone. Because when we're flipping it over, it makes it hard to deal with. So that's why there's that Top Gun slide on your blackboard, because it's that Kenny Loggins song from the Top Gun movie, the danger zone. I know, it's so corny, right? So I've got my two hands underneath the dark meat, okay? I'm going to flip this over top and I'm going to tuck it underneath as I'm rolling forward, okay? And then I want to shape my sort of chicken loaf, I guess, into a nice, neat bundle. At this point, I want to turn my board perpendicular to me, okay? Because this is going to make it much easier for me to truss at this point, okay? So I'm going to take my butcher twine, and the other thing we're going to do at the end of today is put these into different containers because the outside is going to have all kinds of salmonella on it. All right, so again for the slip knot, I'm going to take my small end, I'm going to put it over top of the long end, okay? I'm going to make a loop out of the long end. I'm going to dive it into the hole, I'm going to pull that loop through, and then I'm going to pull the two tails down to make my slip knot, okay? Then I can adjust it and slide it onto my bird. So I'm just going to wiggle it up top. I want to get it as close to the edge as I can. And just like when we did the turkey breast, I want to have two rows. So I'm aiming to be either to the left or the right of the center with this first knot so that my loops go down one side, we'll flip the bird over, we'll go up one side, flip the bird over again, go down the other side, flip the bird over again, and go up the other side, okay? And with this bird, I mean, it's super fragile, so you need that very secure trussing to keep it together. So the trussing method, again, lay it over your hand, twist it, pull the loop up. And you want to keep the loops apart about the distance from the tip of your thumb to the knuckle of your thumb, okay? Unless you have freakishly long fingers, in which case you should reference my hand. Now you'll notice that I'm making sure that each loop is nice and firm before I'm moving on to the next one. Okay, so it's flush against the bird, but I don't have muffin top. Okay, so I don't have it bulging out over top. I just have it nice and snug. Now, as I'm working my way past the danger zone, this is where people get into a lot of trouble. So they pull too tight here because there's really no flesh in there to resist. So you have to be very, very gentle with how you do it. So it's nice and flush against the bird, but it's not pulled tight. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
And you'll notice that my two ends are sort of tucked under. I don't want to end up with open ends. I want the whole thing to be just like a nice kind of rounded oval little loaf. Okay? Then I'm going to take my bird, I'm going to turn it over, okay? And then I'm going to come across one end. Again, right now it's to the right of center, okay? And I'm going to go over, under, over, under. Oops. Over, under. And if I need to adjust my loops down here, I can do that. Over, under. This one needs to come down a little bit. Over, under. Over, under. Over, under. Over, under. Okay. Then I'm going to bring it back over. And I can clean it up afterwards, so I'm not going to get too stressed about this. But again, I'm tucking that end under, okay? I'm going to attach it here, so I can tie these two together if I've got a little tail here. Or I can just tie it to the loop if I want. It's a little too tight. Okay, then I'm going to go over to the other side, because I want to come down this side now. Okay, so I'll tie a little knot there just to keep that nice and firm at the top. And over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Then I'm going to come down to the end here, and you see how I had this side kind of drooping down? I'm just going to use this string to even it out. Okay, so I just pushed it forward, and I'm just evening it out. And then I'm going to flip it back over. And I'm going to repair all this. I'm not worried about this. Over, under, over, under, over, under. You see how it's starting to look a lot more even? So that first flip over, you're probably like, really? Is she going to be able to do that? Hell yeah. And then around the top. And I'm going to tie it off. So you notice it's even on both sides. I've got my loops. I've got a relatively straight little glowworm happening here. And tie a knot. Trim, trim. I'm going to just clean off any schmutz that I have on the outside, so any bits of anything that's showing. And I'm going to take this extra skin and I'm just going to pull this across, right? Because I'm going to hide any kind of stuffing that happens to be peeking out. Okay? And there's always going to be that little danger zone there. Okay? So it's going to be, you're kind of just dealing with it anyway. If you're able to take this where the little drumette was, be able to take that and just tuck it underneath the string, even better. Okay? But this is what we're looking for. So relatively evenly spaced loops, okay? 2 rows on each side. So minimal muffin tops, so that the loops are firm enough that they're going to keep the chicken together, but not so tight that it's bulging out all over the place. So relatively uniform look. Okay? Any questions? So we're going to put this, I'm going to take this, I'm going to rub it with oil, I'm going to season it with salt and pepper, I'm going to put it onto a grate, and I'm going to bake it, roast it at 350 for about 40 minutes, okay? So a chicken this size is going to be about 40 minutes, and you'll get to taste it when it's done, okay? Any questions? No? Do what I did.